especially recognize my leader and our leader, our former vice presidential candidate of the party, distinguished Senator Dati Ahmed. I'm happy to share this space with you. It's a space that has to do with integrity and conscience. And I thank God for giving me this opportunity to meet with you and be with you. And on the premise of those things I have said, may God grant us success in our journey in all that we do. What is in everybody's mind when they look at me is, why do you remain? Why do you remain? And my answer is simple. There's no justification to leave in the first place. I came into Labour Party in 2022 like all others elected in the 2023 election. My first encounter was even with somebody who I call my leader and boss. He's even here today, Chief Tony Ezeabu. I went to his office and I told him I wanted to contest under the Labour Party. He waived every commitment. He waived every commitment that would have been a stumbling block. When I thanked him, he just told me that you politicians, that is what you do. When you succeed, you run away. I told him then that I'm not one of them. I will not run away. How will it look like? How will it look like 2 years after, for no reason, I go to the same 2 years ago and say, I'm no longer in the party? It's impossible. I can seek any kind of ailment you can think of. But the one that I dread most is the one that has to do with my conscience. I'm at peace when my conscience is at peace. I have no problem. It wasn't a very big decision for me to take, because I believe that this party was actually ordained by God to liberate Nigeria. And that is why the party has remained through the storms of the recent years. You know, you cannot tell me the story of Labour Party problems in the last 3 years. You cannot tell me, because I know everything. And indeed, there was nothing. I had said really that there was no crisis in the Labour Party. I've said it on television. What we had in the Labour Party was a small problem of some idealists who believed that we should do a shift. And when it did not work, they are not courageous enough to accept the fact that in a game, we have winners and we have losers. From the onset, I have always advised that we will not succeed the way we go each time we go to court and challenge the party. Now look at the divide. Barrister Julius Abure and the NWC. And we have very powerful members of the National Assembly, 6 senators, 34 members of House of Rep, the leader of the party then, and the governor of the state. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court still made its decision clear that the party is supreme and that the constitution of the party is what we should use to guide every problem that we have. I want to ask somebody, if we have a problem in the party, which organ should resolve, the issue? Is the National Executive Council of the party. The National Executive Council consists of the chairman, secretary of our various chapters, and the NWC. Mr. Chairman, we were in Asaba in 2023, just before we were sworn in. An historic event took place where the tenure was extended by 1 year. Who did it then? It is the neck of the party that did it. So if we had another issue again after that time, it is still the same neck, that will resolve, the issues of the party. And the neck is consistent in its support of Mr. Julius Abure. You may recall, time may not be available for me to go through, the history. You may recall I was at Inewi, and I had the conviction of being in Inewi because you were following the provision of the Constitution of the Labour Party. There was no inconsistency. There was nothing you did that was wrong, that was a deviation of the Constitution. No Constitution is perfect. But for the members, that is your That is your Bible. That is what we all should abide, with. And I'm not surprised the Supreme Court said, if you want to belong to a member of any organization, you must subscribe to the constitution of the party. I once had a meeting with, I don't want to use this word, because if I use this word, it's nowhere found in our constitution. Some people say there's a critical committee. There's no critical committee. It's an appointment of just two persons, one as chairman, another as secretary. That cannot constitute a replacement of elected officers that took place in the Congress. And that was why that day I told my leader then, as he was then, and even the governor who was in attendance, and the individuals, that you cannot abort a baby that has already been born. That what happened in Inewi is sacrosanct, and nobody can change. I think that was where the governor screamed and said, over his dead body, you cannot have who and who as his chairman. But that is in the history. On the right time, we will talk about our party. But I tell you, apart from conscience, to remain in the Labour Party, and we did remain in the Labour Party, there's another danger that is taking place in this country. And that is when we deliberately desecrate the Constitution, the very Constitution that we vow to uphold. We do it every now and then. I advised in that meeting that we shouldn't be talking about whether there's one faction. There's no faction. That this thing will only give rise to members of the party decamping. 1 week later, 4 persons decamped, from the party, citing this bogus reason that there's a faction in the party. There's no faction in the party. I was on the floor of the House where I challenged that they are my friends. And today, many of them, they are still my friends. But truth be told, I told the Speaker that they should not be sitting again. That provision in the Constitution, that this with defection, says the very moment you defect, you shall vacate your office. It is self-activated. It is not to the discretion of the Speaker to say allow it or not to allow it. It is not for people to, when it is good for them, they said it is okay. You defend the provision of the Constitution, and when you don't like some areas, you say you just keep quiet. So anybody, and I still reiterate, anybody elected as a legislator, if you decamp from your party, you must relinquish that position for which you were elected, to represent. I have never seen anybody in the recent time that was decamped and had his certificate changed. In that certificate that is given to us by INEC, you have your name, you have your constituency, and you have the party. So it means you are not the owner of that certificate. So if you go to another party and INEC is not changing that certificate, know that it's a stolen mandate. Yes. And I want to appeal to those my colleagues who have recently followed His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi to ADC. What they have done is wrong. And I want to call on His Excellency himself, and indeed all lovers of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to remind those people that what they did is a desecration of the Constitution, and they ought to either come back to the party or they relinquish their seat in the National Assembly. That is what the Constitution says. The day I will defect, if it ever, in the widest dream, the first thing I will do is not to go back to the National Assembly again. I don't need anybody to do that interpretation for me. Finally, my decision is not that of sentiment, it's that of constitutional commitment and that of conscience. If it is sentiment, I know in my constituency, the people there are telling me, please, when will you follow His Excellency to it? I don't have any problem with His Excellency. He did a lot and helped a lot in my emergence. But there is difference between sentiment and conscience and constitutionality. If it is sentiment, that will not even be my first point of call. His Excellency, the Governor of Delta State, has been a friend of mine for over 30 years. He has not done anything wrong to me. He's the same tribe with me, the same local government. I'm in Ward 2, he's in Ward 3. He has done so much, even personal gestures he has given to me and has treated me fine. But when the state decamped to the ruling party, I never followed him. It's not because I don't like him. It's because my conscience is committed to Labour Party, and I will not see myself leaving the Labour Party any time, in my entire life. I visited the 31 the federal, the 31 ward in my federal constituency only recently, during the Christmas period. And I see the joy in the faces of all members of Labour Party that welcomed me. The only question they were just asking me is, hope you are not defective. How will I reply them if I had followed people to another place? I'm at peace with my God. I am at peace with myself. Finally, I am at peace with the Labour Party. Thank you.